I got into an argument with my mother recently because she did something insensitive to me after I just had a loss and my mom started crying. My sister was there for the whole thing. Then she started comforting my mom as she cried and said to me, "Once you become a mom, you'll understand how hard it is to have your kids be like this towards you." And I just absolutely lost it. I yelled at her and told her that I am a mother. The only difference is that my children are dead and hers is alive. I left and cut off contact with both. My family is trying to reach out and tell me to reconcile. They don't know about the loss or situation, just that I cut off contact with my parents and sister. Now that things have settled down, I'm feeling conflicted. I know where my sister is coming from. I know she meant that when I have kids to parent, I can maybe try to understand my mother better, but I just can't believe she'd say that to me, just after my second loss in the past 8 months. I don't know what to do. My other family members want me to reach out and reconcile, but I really just don't want to deal with all this crap on top of grieving over my loss. But also I feel like maybe I was quick to anger and be an idiot to my sister, but I also feel like my feelings were a bit justified. Edit for the context of the argument with my mother. There was supposed to be a planned family reunion, but after my loss I felt like I needed time to recover emotionally and physically. But on the other hand, being around family and people who love me would also be good for my mental health, so I was conflicted about going, especially since I would have to fly 4 hours over there with my husband. After telling my parents about my loss, my mother encouraged me to come up still and that it would be good to be around family. However, 2 days before flying over, my mother informed me that they would be putting me in the secondary house attached to my family's main house and that I wouldn't be allowed to enter their house or any of my other family's houses because, in our culture, a woman who has had a loss will bring bad luck to the family when entering their houses. So that means that I wouldn't be able to enter the main house to have family meals, I would not be able to go to any of my other family members' houses, and neither would my husband. We'd be expected to eat outside, but she said they could grill outside for lunch and then for dinner we could just eat by ourselves in the secondary house instead. I felt shocked because 1. I wasn't aware of this cultural belief, and 2. This meant that since I couldn't enter anybody's homes, family at the reunion would ask me why and I'd have to tell them about my loss or make an excuse. I was completely blindsided. My husband and I had already bought the tickets and were planning to stay there for 1.5 weeks since we don't see family often due to living so far away. If it had only been a weekend, I would have sucked it up and gone to see family, but she had insisted we stay longer, knowing that we couldn't visit anyone and also had to stay outside or only in the secondary home was terrible. I even asked if people could come to the secondary home to be with us or hang out with us instead. My mother said no, and that I couldn't even be around my nieces and nephews because the bad loss energy would affect their health. That's when I blew up on my mother and said that she should have told me this earlier so that I didn't waste money buying plane tickets and taking time off work just to be in such a terrible situation. And I felt let down because she said she didn't want to tell me because she still wanted to see me. I told her I could have seen her after the waiting period, which is supposedly 3 months before I can enter people's houses and see my nieces and nephews. But because she wanted to see me, she didn't tell me this until right before we were going to come up. So I ended up not going. And then, when a close cousin had her wedding 4 months later, I flew back to my hometown and booked a hotel to stay in instead of staying with my parents, which I usually do. My mom confronted me about why I did that, and it made her look like a bad mom. I told her how I felt betrayed, upset, mad, and that she was insensitive and selfish for withholding the info from me about cultural beliefs that would prevent me from spending time with family, and she cried because she said she just wanted to see me and that I was being mean to her. That's the argument. It's long and winded, which is why I didn't include it initially. So, you can't be around your family because your bad loss energy would affect their health. Absolutely not, the idiot. I'm sorry, OP, that your family has been so unsupportive and has placed frankly nonsense superstitions above your needs. I'd be going to make no contact, at least for the time being, but not before making it extremely clear their behaviour is unacceptable and you won't tolerate such treatment. For your mom to treat you how she has and then make out that you're the one behaving cruelly is outrageous. I'm sorry your mom and sister are not being the support that they should be for you. I hope you have a good support network in others around you and can find the comfort and understanding from them that you didn't get from your mom and sister. Yeah, that was terrible of your mother, and I wouldn't have gone to the reunion or stayed with her for the wedding either. Why would she keep that from you? It was just selfish on her part and completely hurtful. Your sister should have stayed out of it. Either she didn't know the context, which would have been more forgivable, or she was purposely being insensitive as well. I do feel differently about the babies I lost versus the children I'm raising, but she doesn't need to gatekeep who can call themselves a parent. I'd be more inclined to forgive her versus your mom, however. My wife, female 28, works in finance, and recently we went to her company event where I met her colleagues for the first time. During the event, she introduced me to some of her male colleagues. Somehow it ended up with me and 3 guys having small talk while she left to talk to others. Eventually, they asked me what I did for work. I work as a dentist, but I really dislike talking about work outside of work, so I told them it was nothing interesting and the conversation was moving forward. However, one of the guys kept on asking and was so curious, for God knows why, and jokingly said, "Are you embarrassed because you work at McDonald's?" He was starting to annoy me, so I said in a dead serious tone that I do, in fact, work at McDonald's, and that's why I didn't want to talk about it and tried to make it as awkward as possible. I thought it was hilarious seeing his, "Oh, sorry, bro" face while the other 2 tried not to laugh. But a week later, I kind of forgot about it, and my wife came home and started yelling at me about why I lied to her colleagues. Apparently, rumours spread fast in her workplace, and eventually the whole office judged my wife behind her back until she eventually found out. I honestly do get why she was angry, and it was a back and forth for a while until eventually she said, "What if she came into the clinic I work at and told everyone she was an escort?" I thought about it, I kind of see her point, but at the same time I feel like she's just easily embarrassed and angry about getting judged by the office. However, she thinks I was childish and immature and didn't need to do that. Am I the idiot for lying to my wife's co-worker? You are the idiot. You could have easily said I'm a dentist, but I prefer not to discuss business off the clock. There's no reason to hide your profession, and there's certainly no reason to lie about it. No matter how inappropriate her colleagues were, your behaviour reflects on your spouse. You started this by being cagey about a benign question. Are you still in your edgy mystery teenage stage? No one was going to quiz you about being a dentist. You're not a secret agent. Yeah, you are the idiot for being weird about it in the first place. I'm a dentist. Oh, nice. And if anyone asks anything beyond that, just excuse yourself from the conversation. I sometimes joke that I wish I were a proctologist. That way, when I went to the neighbourhood hardware store or any other place, no one would say, "Hey, quick question," and then talk about or show me their issues. I get crushed by, "Hey, quick question," because it's rarely quick, and even when it is quick, the answer, if I'm really giving it, is not quick. Not that I golf much with strangers, but I swear you can't get past the second hole before someone asks you what you do for a living, because then I'm stuck for 4.5 hours with quick questions. I think keeping dental talk to the dentist's office is probably a smart thing for OP. He's not the idiot. I agree, not the idiot. My wife is a nurse. People constantly ask her medical questions. It's very annoying. She's a labour and delivery nurse. People ask her about cancer, heart stuff, drug interactions, etc. It's very annoying. Plus, it's people trying to get free medical advice. I have a cousin who's an IT guy, high-level IT. He gets badgered constantly. I'm guilty too, but I buy him bottles of good bourbon, say thanks, from everyone. They expect him to fix all of their stuff for free. Imagine working a full week and wanting to not work and getting asked questions about how to do your job. My sister and I were raised by our stepmother and father. Our stepmother was very close to us and more of a mother than our actual mother has ever been. She passed away 5 years ago after losing her battle with cancer. Her name was Leanne, and it was very important for me to honour her by naming my child after her. We selected the name Leanna in order to honour Leanne while being somewhat different and more modern. My sister had the same idea of wanting to honour Leanne and name her toddler Lee. We told her we chose Leanna for the child we were expecting. Sister is very upset because she says that it clashes with her baby name choices. My sister is not currently pregnant, but wanted to name her future daughter Anne or Anna as another way to honour Leanne. She thinks it would be stupid for her kids to be named Lee and Anna with a cousin named Leanna. I agree that that would be confusing as we have a pretty close family and the kids would be seeing each other a lot. However, we had no clue that she wanted to do another honour name for a future kid. Going into this, we knew that Lee and Leanna are pretty similar names, but I thought they were different enough that that wouldn't be too weird or confusing. I do feel bad because she already had a baby name picked out for her future daughter and we would somewhat be making it not able to be used. However, we were both close to Leanne and I don't think she should be the only one who gets to use an honour name. At the end of the day, she can still name any future kids whatever she wants, and I have the same right. After thinking long and hard about it, we told her we would still use the name. We want to honour Leanne and no other names considered feel right for this baby. Sister has been making passive-aggressive comments since then. For example, we were out shopping with her and Lee picked out some kind of stuffed animal. Lee dropped it in the Walmart parking lot on the way back to the car. My sister quickly picks it up and hands it to him, saying, "Be careful, buddy, she might want to steal that too." I'm pretty sure she was trying to imply that we stole a version of his name or something, but the whole interaction was pretty weird in my opinion. Edit. This is also the only name my SO and I both can agree on, as we have very different naming styles. I prefer more classic names like Rachel, Paula or Maxine. He likes more trendy names like Moon or Adrian. Not the idiot, they are 3 different names. It's bad enough when somebody tries to pull that, "you can't use that name because I might possibly maybe use it at some vague point in the future" nonsense. Never seen someone try to claim, "you can't use any names that sound even remotely related to the one I want," though that's a whole new level of entitlement. You're not stealing anything. You can name your kid anything you want and they can name their kid anything they want. This reminds me of the scene from My Big Fat Greek Wedding. This is my brother Nicholas, and his daughter Nikki, and his son Nicholas. This is my cousin Nico, his daughter Nicola, and his son Nick. Something to that effect. We don't hold names for children that do not exist. Nothing is stopping her from naming a hypothetical daughter Anna. Leanna is a lovely name, and your sister needs to grow up. Everyone's the idiot here. Lee and Leanna are already pretty close. People will call Leanna Lee for short, I promise you. It's nice to honour your stepmom. Did she have a middle name? I mean, this reminds me of a Dr. Seuss story called Too Many Daves. There may be some other way of honouring a person besides naming every person in a generation after her. Update, her name is going to be Karina, y'all. Karina Lake. Lake may sound like a weird middle name, but it's for Leanne, and her last name started with E. Leanne is off the name list for good. I don't want to ruin my relationship with my sister and nephew over a name. My mother-in-law has recently moved back to our hometown after finally escaping from her ex. My husband and I were unaware of the severity of the situation because my mother-in-law made efforts to hide it, and I know that my husband is feeling very guilty about it. But my mother-in-law is doing better. She has her own little apartment in town and has been working and rebuilding her life. We've made efforts to support her as much as possible, but we're in a tight spot financially, so what we can do is limited. For the past couple weeks, my mother-in-law has been inviting us over to her place for dinner multiple times a week. She's always loved to cook and says she's excited to cook for her family again. Plus, she gets to spend time with our toddler. The problem is that she has consistently told us to be there around 6 p.m, only for her to not have dinner ready until 9 p.m. or later, and she refuses any help in the kitchen. This is a major issue because we stay out past our daughter's bedtime. Her whole nighttime routine gets thrown off and it makes it harder to get her down for bed, not to mention how cranky she gets waiting for the food. I've tried to gently talk to my mother-in-law about this, but she's always been critical of me and my parenting. She thinks it's outrageous that I keep my daughter on such a strict schedule and insists that when her kids were little they didn't have schedules and just ate when they were hungry and fell asleep when they were tired, and it worked out just fine. I asked my husband to talk to his mom about it, but she basically told him the same thing. Then, when I went off on him about how she was just trying to help us out financially by providing a few meals for us, and how it was terrible of us to try to make her feel bad for just wanting to spend time with her family. So he dropped it and we've been back to her place for dinner a couple more times since then, and it's still been served at 9 p.m. And she's been making passive-aggressive comments about how I need to loosen up and how I can't expect the world to stick to my schedule. My husband thinks we should just put up with it because his mom has been through so much, and he feels partially responsible because he was unaware of the situation and wasn't able to protect her. But after a particularly critical phone call with her yesterday, I told my husband that I didn't want to go to her place for dinner anymore. He insisted that she's just stressed because of everything she's been through and we need to show her some leniency. I told him that she could come over to our place for dinner every now and then and that would be fine, but I'm not going to be held captive at her apartment anymore. We didn't really come to an agreement though, and I'm thinking that maybe I'm being too harsh on my mother-in-law and torturing my husband in the process. So, am I the idiot? Edit, it's not that she's consistently cooking that whole time. She'll do some prep, then take a smoke break, then do a little more, and then take a play with baby break, then a coffee break, then she'll do a little more cooking, then take a phone call outside, then another smoke break. Apparently this is how she's always done things. Not the idiot at all, she's not respecting your time or parenting. Her coming to your house for a meal is a great compromise, but you need to get your husband to shut his mother's attitude down. Also, she's exposing your baby to secondhand smoke. Does she take off her smoking jacket and wash her hands when she comes back in? Because smoke sticks to the smoker. Also, I don't care what she's going through, and she should never be allowed to disrespect you. Your husband should be shutting her down the second she starts. He has nothing to feel guilty about. He couldn't know what she didn't tell him, and she's a grown adult woman who made her own choices. She's trying to keep you there as long as possible. You must nip that behavior in the bud, even if it means staying home with the little one.